It's 5:38 a.m. I'm Mike.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Erin.
And tonight on the Sleepy Nerds podcast, we danced the night away to Donald Duck's Vietnam Nightmare.
Sleep last night, and every time I woke up I had a 21 Pilots song stuck in my head.
I also have terrible news. Did you guys know Sean Penn wrote a book?
What?
No. Is it a memoir?
No.
Is it a children's book? Can I guess the title of it?
Can I read you a passage and you tell me if it's a children's book?
Please.
All right. Actual line of dialogue from a Sean Penn novel. Mm-hmm. Hence, his life remains incessantly infused with her identity and fidelity, and her abhorrent ascensions to those constant salacious sessions of sexual solitaire she'd seen as self-regard.
So it's either a kid's book, or it's like his version of OJ's If I Did It, but about him beating up Madonna.
Yeah.
I think it's like some erotic book.
It's all like that. Second passage.
Uh-huh.
Whenever he felt these collisions of incubus and succubus, he punched his way out of the proletariat with a purposeful inputting of covert codes, thereby drawing distraction through Scottsdale deployments, dodging the ambush of innocence astray, evading the Viscount Vogue of Viagric assaults on virtual vaginas, or worse, falling passively into the prosaic pastimes. It's all like this. Every line of dialogue.
So garbage.
When you said you had terrible news that we could talk about during the banter, is this what you were talking about?
Part of it, yeah.
Cool.
Chapter titles. Seeking Homeostasis and Inherent Hypocrisy. Chapter 2. Recollections of Teenage Carney.
Kyle.
Chapter 5. Big Cock.
Oh, man, he almost lost me, but he hooked me right back in. I already was kind of like... I don't have the energy to fully record tonight, but I'm gonna push through it. Now I'm at negative 50, and that sapped the will to live from me.
Blame Sean Penn.
I am,
Fuck you,
but
Sean
also
Penn.
you as the conduit for news about Sean Penn.
I pre-ordered 5 copies. Ugh. That's the next giveaway.
I hope
I'm signing copies of Sean Penn's book.
I hope in your next purge where you get rid of a bunch of stuff that you don't need in your house, all that's left on your bookshelf is 5 copies of Sean Penn's book and that book that you bought written by the guy who's in prison for life and his workout routine.
Oh, Charles Bronson?
Sure.
It's a good book.
What's Charles Bronson? No.
It's just a guy named Charles Bronson.
It's
not the Charles Bronson.
Wait,
it's just
that
Charles
no
Bronson.
Yeah. I feel like I would have remembered
I thought you were going to say, you hope in the next purge someone murders me and Sean Penn. But.
No. I mean, that would be a long way to travel between you and Sean Penn.
Hey, Mike, what are we talking about tonight?
What a segue.
What? I don't even remember. What are we talking about tonight?
Fittingly, we're talking about things that we hate.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Things that we hate. Well, what do we kind of narrowed it down to?
Versions of things we like the worst version of something.
Yeah, we decided that things that we hate is clearly too broad of a topic. This is going to be Haters Volume 1, because I'm sure that we'll have many more episodes where we just talk about things that we hate.
Yeah.
So we narrowed it down to
versions
of things we love where we just hate that version of it.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Erin.
I always go first.
You're already at negative 50.
I always go first, though.
I can go first.
Go first.
Okay.
You go first, Kyle.
All right, fine. My thing that I hate the most is the worst version of it. In 2000, Marvel launched a new imprint called the Ultimate Universe. A lot of people felt that Marvel was too inaccessible. Go figure. Go figure comic books are inaccessible.
Who knew?
Yeah.
They figured the Marvel's too inaccessible, so they want a new jumping on point for people, for new readers. So they started Ultimate Spider-Man, which was a new #1 in an alternate universe. Everything was more updated.
Was that the one where they sort of tried to sync it with the movie canon? Because that would have been around in the same. No. Oh, okay.
No. They just tried to Peter Parker. He wasn't a newspaper photographer anymore. It was a blog or something like that. He was a kid.
He was still in high school.
Yeah. Ultimate Spider-Man was great. It was a really good version, and it was followed by Ultimate X-Men shortly after. The Ultimates, which was their Avengers. Ultimate Fantastic Four. That have a lot of events. And the good thing about it was fun seeing how they reinterpreted classic characters. It was fun because they could surprise you. by kind of subverting expectations sometimes. Like a character wouldn't be who they were supposed to be. It would be like their brother or someone else. The events felt really big and fresh and fun.
Okay, when in this continuity did Peter Parker turn into a spider and then give birth to himself?
Never.
That absolutely happened. Don't put this on me.
It happened in the regular MCU. That was not
was
Ultimate
that like
Spider-Man.
separate from the?
Yeah.
So was this just like they were running regular like MCU comics and then they were running the Ultimate Universe like concurrently?
Parallel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the Ultimate Universe is what most of the MCU is based on.
Yeah, a
The
lot of
cinematic
The current,
universe.
yeah.
like Sam Jackson being used as Nick Fury was an Ultimate Marvel comic idea.
Yeah, because whoever did the Ultimate version is like, what would Samuel L. Jackson be like as Nick Fury?
Yeah, it was Brian Hitch, I think.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
I want to see Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, so he made it into the comic book, and then they're just like, well, we're making the movie, so
I feel like the Ultimates kind of like debuted the idea of like widescreen comics was what they were calling it almost. It was like very like action oriented, lots of like spreads and set pieces. It was really fun. It was exciting. Had a lot of really good talent behind it. Mark Millar, Brian Michael Bendis did Ultimate Spider-Man forever. Him and Mark Bagley.
yeah.
Lots of really cool writers. Warren Ellis is on it. And then in 2008, these promos started. It was a tombstone, and it was like March on Ultimatum. It was gonna be a big event with it had
In typical Marvel fashion.
and it had like Tombstone with 2000 through 2008 on it to let you know it was a big deal. A lot of stuff was going to happen, and they're bringing Jeff Loeb on to write. Great, good writer, right? Jeff Loeb did like a lot of He did Long Halloween, which was my favorite Batman stories. He did Batman Superman Public Enemies, which was really good, fun comic.
I feel like I only know his name because of hearing you complain about him. So
Here we go.
This is why.
This is why. Jeff Loeb, before he did Ultimatum, did Ultimates 3, which is a sequel to Ultimates and Ultimates 2 by Mark Millar, which are some of them, like, they're really good comics. They have their critics, but I thought they were really good action comics. I thought they were really well written. It was the Ultimate Universe forever had been kind of like grounding the Marvel comics in some kind of like reality, I guess, for the better part of it. Just how the MCU tried to do it.
Yeah.
But Ultimates 3 is a really terrible comic, and the plot of that is that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, brother and sister, are fucking.
obviously,
Of course.
And
I was
then-
literally going to make that
yeah.
joke before you finished the sentence.
And then
I was like,
Ultron leaks a sex tape between Tony Stark and Black Widow to the public, which distracts from the fact that Scarlet Witch gets assassinated,
sure.
and then starts this big whole fucking thing. And
Fucking
I was
thing.
trying to write things down because I just forgot so much about it. Eventually, it ends with Quicksilver dying, and then Magneto getting all pissed off at the world that his kids are dead. So he like steals Thor's hammer.
Wait, so Scarlet Witch and what's his?
Quicksilver.
Yeah,
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver both die. Okay.
Yeah, and it pisses Magneto
Oh, she
off.
got assassinated. You said
Yeah,
that.
she gets killed.
I'm already lost. Go on.
And
Oh, you said Black Widow. That's maybe why.
Black
Black Widow had a sex tape
With Tony
leaked,
Stark.
and
Okay,
that
so
distracted from Scarlet Witch being assassinated,
Okay.
and then Quicksilver died.
It was very dumb. There was like Cyborg Avengers. Who gives a fuck?
I feel like we're
Anyway.
only on like the first page
Anyway,
of the first
yeah.
issue.
Anyway, Magneto stealing the hammer.
So
Go
it was
on.
really, really bad. And it was just like he mischaracterized everybody, and it was just very like mean spirited and like dumb. But we had no idea what we were in for. Ultimatum is. It was like it was written by a monster that hates comics.
Like a literal monster, or just like a terrible person.
Just a bad
monster?
person.
Oh, okay.
Just a bad person.
I thought
hates
I was
comics.
imagining like
The entire thing reads like Jeff Loeb had a.
creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, I hate comics. I'm gonna write this story.
Yeah, it reads like someone who is just upset at comics, like specifically Marvel comics.
So like
Specifically
you right
the
now.
Ultimate Marvel Universe.
Okay.
And the story is Magneto, to get revenge on the world, reverses the polarity of Earth
Sure.
and causes like mass flooding and like mass like freezing. So like Latveria freezes completely and everyone gets frozen to death except Doctor Doom,
Obviously.
course.
obviously. And in Manhattan, like this huge flood comes and kills goddamn everybody. And David Finch also did the artwork, and people keep saying that was like a high point, but David Finch only wants to draw attractive people, not anyone that can express any kind of emotion. So whenever people are upset or angry in this comic, they just look mildly like
Is it
constipated.
just like when anyone with like too much plastic surgery tries to express an emotion?
and they like just partially like part their lips.
yeah, and are just like with like a frozen face.
I'm going to read to you a list of everyone that dies in this comic series
Okay.
and how they die.
I'm ready.
Strap
Alright.
in, folks.
Angel, Killed and partially eaten by Sabretooth.
Sure.
Beast.
Sabretooth, indigestion.
Beast, drowned in the ultimatum wave.
Okay.
I think Beast and a couple X-Men go to the movies, and that's how they fucking die off panel.
Oh.
Blob, head bitten off by Hank Pym. I'll get to why.
Did he have like pincers at the time? Like ant?
No, he grows big, then fucking bites Blob's head off.
Sure. Okay.
And I'll get to why.
Okay.
Cannonball, blown up by Multiple Man. Multiple Man becomes like a suicide bomber.
Sure.
And makes a bunch of himself and goes around places. Cyclops, shot in the head by Quicksilver.
That makes sense.
Who wasn't dead, by the way. He was still alive, guys. JK.
Why did he need
Oh,
a
all
gun
along,
if
like
he's
he never died in the
Not
first place.
shot in the head by Quicksilver. Quicksilver runs the bullet through his head. While
Is he holding it the
Wait,
whole time?
yeah.
Wait.
Like his whole hand goes.
He's given the comic ends. It ends this big event with all this bloodshed and violence. Cyclops is like, "Hey guys, like it's 8 days after the ultimatum wave. Magneto is like trying to do this and that, but like we can still fix things between humans and mutants. And the government's voting right now to make all mutants register." And he's just giving us like big speech of hope, and his fucking head blows up.
In fairness to Quicksilver,
Cyclops sucks.
yeah, Cyclops does suck. Also, what's the ultimatum wave? Like,
That's
flood.
the flood that Magneto causes by reversing the
Oh,
polarity
okay.
of Earth. That stopped when Sue Storm creates a force field so big it pushes all the water out of Manhattan, no matter where it is. And she goes into a fucking coma for the rest of the book. Anyway.
is that like
Where
all?
does the water go,
Yeah.
Kyle?
Does like everyone who is like taking a bath during that time also like that
Guys,
water leaves?
I have a long list.
Okay,
Let him
sorry.
finish.
Daredevil, found dead by Spider-Man, presumably drowned in the ultimatum wave.
Sure.
Dazzler, drowned in the ultimatum wave.
Who cares?
Detonator, tortured and killed in the Savage Land. Doctor Strange, killed by Dormammu after his body is constricted by his cape, causing his gorged head to explode.
That's not how that works.
It's
Oh,
the
comic
dumbest,
books.
the dumbest panel I've ever seen.
First we learn.
And I've read a lot of Golden Age comics.
First
Wait,
we
what
learn
is
that
the-
Doctor Strange is made of balloons.
What is the cape called again? The Cape of Levitation or
the
some
cape
shit?
of constricting.
Anyway, go
Cape
on.
of head explosion.
Emma Frost, blown up by Multiple Man. Ford, tortured and killed in the Savage Land. Franklin Storm, killed by the Ultimatum Wave. Hard Drive, tortured and killed in the Savage Land. Hank Pym, blown up by Multiple Man. Juggernaut, hit in the eye by a poisonous dot shot by a Sentinel soldier.
Sure.
Wand Shot, tortured and killed in the Savage Land.
What's the Savage Land?
The Savage Land is a area where time kind of like stood still
It's
in
like
the
where
prehistoric
like
age.
dinosaurs still exist.
Like dinosaurs still exist there.
Caveman. It's like the primal version. It's like I know in the Justice League's version or the DC version is like under like a polar ice cap or some
Yeah.
shit. Like so, I think the
Sounds dumb.
Yeah.
the Marvel one is somewhere. I don't know.
All right. Lorelei, killed by a Wolverine. Magneto, head blown off by Cyclops. After, I'm going to skip around a little bit.
So it's like
Magneto rips the adamantium from Wolverine's body. And it's just a skeleton with like eyeballs.
Sure.
And then he like
how that works,
he
yeah.
uses his magnetic powers to force Cyclops and Iron Man to like disintegrate all of
Guess
his
not.
like flesh.
Wolverine's flesh.
Yeah. So he
Isn't
can't
he
like
already dead? Oh, so he can't regenerate.
so he can't regenerate. And then
Dumb. Anyway.
And then Nick Fury shows up from an alternate Earth just in
course.
time to have his mind put into Magneto's mind. So Magneto finds out that all mutants are actually not really genetically superior or they were born that way, but that mutants were engineered by the government using Nick Fury's DNA because he's a super soldier mixed with Wolverine, who is the first mutant to create mutants. Don't ask.
So
Nightcrawler.
So wait, hold on. So Cyclops kills Magneto before Quicksilver kills Cyclops?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Nightcrawler, drowning the ultimatum wave. Polaris, blown up by Multiple Man. Professor X, neck broken by Magneto. Psylocke, listed by Marvel as dead. Death never shown. Sunspot, killed by Multiple Man. Syndicate, dead after one of his heads is blown off by William Stryker. Thor, surrendered his soul to Valhalla, where Captain America also goes after he dies and then comes back. Toad,
Makes sense.
listed by Marvel as dead, never shown.
So wait. Who was the other one who had that?
Psylocke, right?
Psylocke.
Psylocke. So Psylocke and Toad are like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of this universe.
Anyway.
Just like, by the way,
Wasp,
they're dead. Yeah.
partially eaten by Blob.
Partially.
Before his head's bitten off, right?
Hank Pym
So-
shows up, and Blob's just eating Wasp, and he's like, tastes like chicken.
So
And then Hank Pym picks up Blob and eats his head.
Is there any any plot to this story? Because it just
Wolverine.
sounds like back-to-back deaths. Just
Wolverine
like-
completely shredded by Magneto.
right.
And then there's a list of just presumed dead. This comic also ends with the Thing traveling into Latveria and crushing Dr. Doom's head. And his like eyeballs like pop out of the mask. Like, I have no... And also, then it's revealed to not be Dr. Doom. Who gives a fuck?
Of course.
It's...
Dr. Doom, probably.
I don't mind violence in comics, obviously. Like, my favorite comic of all time is Preacher.
Yeah.
Which is like one of the most violent comics ever made. But
That just seems excessive.
it's so excessively mean-spirited and dark and hopeless and shitty.
Yeah,
and
like just for the sake of it, too.
And like a part of it was like, oh, like Spider-Man might be dead. So it's like, cool. So Spider-Man disappears halfway through because he like supposedly dies. He comes back.
sure.
Of course. Because comics.
Because comics. But it's the worst comic
Period.
ever written.
Period.
It's like Jeff Loeb writes like Rob Liefeld draws. It's so ugly.
That's bad.
What is the floating disembodied face of this plot line?
All of it.
Storyline.
All of it. It's so
the
bad.
characters that never shown but are presumed dead.
Just the fact that it was 99 issues, or well, really 100 issues worth of Ultimate X-Men, and a lot of those X-Men that you've seen for like 60 issues die off panel. That just die in a flood. Fuck
Cool.
them. Cool.
So Kyle,
Yeah.
if you had to either reread cover to cover this, excuse me,
There's
Or-
painful for you to get out, huh?
yeah, it's really hard. No, this or the DC story, I forget the name, where Sue Dibney is raped and everyone's fucking killed. That you ranted
Identity
about.
Crisis?
Yeah, Identity Crisis.
That was
which one would you read cover to cover?
Identity Crisis. And
Yeah.
I almost picked Identity Crisis for this.
I thought you were going to.
Except that was actually like well written. And had beautiful artwork. And
So this was just ugly and stupid on
ugly
top
and
of
stupid.
insult to injury.
And the thing was, Identity Crisis, like, it did a lot of things I don't like, and a lot of people hate it for like all the darkness. And I do hate that it kind of took all these like characters that represented this like sweet, innocent, goofy time in DC Comics, and they're like, oh, obviously we should like disturb people by raping and murdering them. And it's just so ugly. But that comic has moments of like genuine like empathy and pathos and like beauty to it.
It's
Yeah.
also not just crazy murder all the time.
And it's just not crazy murder all the time. There's like a mystery. This was just Jeff Loeb taking just shit out on these characters. And it sucked and I hate it. And I was gonna buy a copy to reread for this purpose. But it's out of print and it's like $40 fucking used on Amazon.
Probably
I wish
the
I could
best.
buy every copy and send it into the sun. I hate it so much.
It'd be like the ET video games where they buried it in the desert.
Yeah, buried in the
Mexico,
desert, yeah.
All right. What do you guys have?
Well, something you said actually makes a good transition into mine. Those DC characters that are just sweet and good and genuine. I want to talk about New 52 Billy Batson.
Good. Okay.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I like Billy Batson and Captain Marvel. I've talked about it many times. I like that he is just a sweet, innocent character. I like that, not all the time, but I like it as sort of a breath of fresh air, just having like, especially in a team up, I like that character like Captain Marvel or like Superman to have like others bounce off of, because sort of like an Ultimatum, like if it's just dark and gritty all the time, you're like, just like stop, let up. So it's nice to have that occasional like, hey, this is just like a good-hearted kid who is like doing his best and wants to improve the world, even though he's like sort of been dealt a shitty hand. I like that. So New 52, they turned him from like a sweet sort of like innocent 10 to 12-year-old, depending on when you're in.
Ish.
They made him 15. They made him like, they gave him an abusive uncle and like sent him into the foster system, which I think he had been before, but he was just a piece of shit. He only got his powers from Shazam because Shazam was dying and was looking for like a good champion, and Billy Batson's like, well, there are no truly good people in the world, so you might as well just give your powers to me. And Shazam was like, well, like I see like a shimmer of goodness in him, and also I'm about to die, so I guess I'll give my powers to him. The first fucking thing he does once he has his powers is like, he and Freddy are like, oh, awesome, like you can look like an adult now, go buy us some beer. The first thing he does.
He's a teenager.
And yeah, like,
He's a total piece of shit.
he's a total piece of shit. And that was also, I have mixed feelings about this. This isn't as bad. That's also when they like started calling him Shazam instead of Captain Marvel. I feel like that's sort of like there's no good solution to that. Because it's like, okay, we'll call him Shazam. Well, Shazam's the wizard. And like, okay, but call him Captain Marvel. Well, there's like 6 other Captain Marvels. So there's no clean way of, we've also run into this before on podcasts. There's no clean way of saying like, oh, I want to talk about Captain Marvel. Well, which Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
Like Billy Batson Captain Marvel or like the
Carol Danvers
Marvel? Yeah,
or
Captain
Marvel,
Marvel or like who are you talking about? Like Shazam. Oh, the wizard? No. Like,
Did they not call him Shazam prior to the New 52? I feel like right before the New 52 they did. Like
no,
leading up
they
to
made it official. I like was reading a statement as I was looking up stuff about this where they were like, yeah, everyone was like already sort of calling him Shazam like casually, so we just like decided to make it official. They also briefly, though I think they even changed this like before even New 52 is over, they like replaced Shazam giving him his powers with like some other like DC specific god and like changed the acronym what it stood for so they were all like DC characters. That was dumb and short-lived. I feel like that might have been like on a spin-off. I don't know.
Weird.
I didn't fully read about that and I hadn't like read the issue that was in. But so they basically showed on everything I loved about that character and just made him this irredeemable piece of shit. And it was like, I don't need another like jaded shitty teenager who doesn't deserve to have any power and like is going to abuse his power immediately. And that's like, even if I did want that, that's not what I want in like Captain Marvel. That's not why I'm a fan of him. So it's like, oh, we're going to reboot your character. Oh, you're going to do something cool with him? No, we're just going to ruin him.
I never read those New 52 Shazam comics.
Don't.
They were. It would never came out by themselves.
Was it
always-
a backup?
The first like 6 stories were like in the back of the Justice League,
Okay.
like leading up to Throne of Atlantis, I think it was.
Okay.
And then he was just in Justice League.
But my only exposure was those New 52 DC movies they've done, which I've turned around on. I watched that first one, War, and I hated it.
Yeah, I liked War.
I thought all the characterizations, just everyone was just a fucking asshole. Like, everyone's just a dick. And Billy-
Batman's not a dick.
Billy Batson was so just like such a piece of garbage. And like Wonder Woman shows up as like, yeah, she got a boyfriend. And just dumb shit like that. And like did he steal Cyborg's jersey?
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
that's like his introduction.
Yeah.
I feel like even that was like, I mean, it's sort of on the border. That was more like, oh, like mischievous kid stuff, almost.
But it was in the context of him just also being like a dumb piece of shit.
I feel like
for the rest of the
he
time.
also did something like super manipulative, didn't he? Didn't he
Yeah.
like scam his way into the? It's been a
Yeah,
while since I saw.
yeah,
it.
he
he
got
snuck
into the
into the
game.
football
Stadium.
game by walking in front of this old couple, telling the guy, "Oh, my grandparents have the tickets."
Oh,
And
yeah,
then the
yeah,
old
yeah.
people come up and just give the guy 2 tickets, and he's like, "Well, what about the third one for your grandson?" They're like, "What grandson?" And then
Oh
Billy's
yeah, he
just
like, yeah,
in,
he's already in.
and he sits down in like the seat reserved for Victor's dad.
Yeah. Man, I bet that saying all that makes my Jay Baruchel as Billy Batson seem way better. Shazam!
No, it's like basically that's what I think of is just like 15 years into the future of the New 52 Billy Batson.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he hasn't learned how to be good because he was just given powers despite being a shitty person. So now he's just a shitty adult too.
Yeah. When I said that, I was partially joking, but I was partially like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting concept for like just Billy Batson be a piece of shit that turns into like a really upstanding, good-natured guy. But like the worse and worse the world gets, I'm like, can we please just get like, can we just go back to like a sweet innocent Billy Batson that wants to be a genuine superhero? And
Good.
yeah.
That's pretty much all I have to say about.
Was the Trials of Shazam comic that Gary Frank did? That was like before New 52, right? And I think even that one is where Billy Batson like saves some woman in an alleyway, and she's like, "Oh, how much do I owe you?" And then Freddy's like, $20.
Yeah.
And then he's like charging people to save them.
Wasn't that like when he had the Marvel family still going on?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I really feel like, oh, do you remember what they did in Mary Marvel? During like Countdown and 52 and everything?
No.
Fucking Mary Marvel got corrupted.
Of course.
And
it
she
did.
started like wearing this like latex black outfit and had like her
Was she still like an 8-year-old?
no, her fucking hair looked like the lead singer of Prodigy with like the fucking like Trihawk.
I don't know what that means.
Oh my God.
Trihawk. I know what
I'm
that
gonna,
means. I don't know. I don't know what Prodigy is or what the lead singer looks like.
He's got since Firestarter.
It's probably for the best.
He's just saying words now.
I know. You know, Firestarter. Firestarter.
Prodigy,
Yeah.
Firestarter.
Trihawk.
Am I being activated as a sleeper agent right now?
Like, That's what Mary Marvel looks like when she's evil.
Ugh.
So.
I mean.
Oh, here's her hair. That's a version of it. She's like bald, has these weird like pink
She
pigtails.
looks like a Fury.
She looks like the
Like
Cynthia
one of,
doll from Rugrats.
No,
Yeah.
she looks like one of
the female Furies, yeah.
the Granny Goodness's Furies.
Yeah, that one has like exact mask. Yeah, I forget what her name is.
Who cares?
Yeah, no, give a shit.
The only Fury anybody knows is Big Barda. She's not even a Fury anymore.
And she's great.
Yeah.
I think New 52 might have been when they started like making Mary an adult when she transformed too. Like before that, she was just a kid.
Before.
They've never. The only person in the whole like Shazam family from the New 52 until now is Shazam, and he's not even in anything right now. He was just in the backup for those Justice League books in New 52.
Yeah. And
then he was on the cast of the Justice League, and nobody's seen him since the whole reboot.
He's really getting like the Hawkman treatment.
No, Hawkman they just keep bringing back and
I was
killing.
gonna say, but even Hawkman they keep trying to force into.
Hawkman has a new series coming out.
Yeah, after the last one that was literally called Hawkman, the Death of Hawkman, where they killed him.
Wasn't it called Search for Hawkman for 2 issues? And they were like,
It was the first 3 issues were Hawkman and Adam Strange, and then with issue 4 it switched to like Death of Hawkman. It's like what the fuck?
I feel like we're like still not quite on the verge of like what you said, Kyle, of like society or media wanting the like more innocent character again. Like we haven't completely purged that like dark grittiness out of our system yet, but we're like approaching it, and then maybe they'll bring Billy Batson back and not make him
out next year.
Piece of garbage. Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't want to talk about that.
I don't know. But they're making it a kids movie, right? So they might like.
It looks like it, presumably.
I thought that they said like it wasn't going to be like.
Who fucking knows?
PG-13 and
it's not even been produced. It's Paramount.
What?
Or it's New Line? Is it New Line? I think New Line's doing it.
I don't fucking know.
Sorry, Paramount was Marvel. Yeah, I think New Line's doing it.
But
so it's not even.
It's in the DC universe.
No, it's not.
The film. It's not in the film universe.
Nope.
What the fuck? So what movies are in there?
I'm also totally fine with that. Like, I think we had this discussion about Marvel TV shows. Like, I'm fine with them producing things that aren't part of the bigger continuity at this point. Like, I'm fine with them making a DC movie just because they're like, hey, you know, this director really likes this character and wants to make the movie. Like, good, give it to them. Let them do it, and it doesn't have to tie into everything else.
Yeah, but now we're getting a fucking Joker movie from the Hanover guy starring Joaquin Phoenix, so.
Yeah, obviously.
Scorsese's not doing that anymore.
He's producing it.
But the thing is, like, who is going to go see a Shazam movie if it doesn't have anything to do with any of the other stuff that's going on?
I mean, if it's a kids movie, then families.
And all the same people that didn't go see Justice League.
Yeah. Well, it's like if people are already like not showing up to like Justice League or things like that because either they don't have faith in DC movies or like they don't want to be like, oh, well, I didn't see the other ones and like they all tie in, so I'm not going to understand what's going on, then why not just be like, hey, this is just a movie about a superhero. Like, go see it if you want to see this superhero movie.
But they're also going to be putting out movies that do tie in at the same time. So, like, people are going to get completely confused. Like, which movies do I see that tie in and which ones don't?
Probably.
We went off on a hard tangent here.
It all came together.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, that's all I have to say about Captain Marvel.
So, my turn.
Yep.
So, I was between 2 for mine, and I've talked about both of them briefly. It was between the Avatar series and the Last Airbender movie, but I feel like I might have talked about that in length before.
At least briefly.
But I'm more leaning towards Transformers, the Transformer movie universe, as opposed to everything else.
Yeah.
Because I know I've talked about Transformers before.
We talk about Transformers on every podcast.
I know, but I have more of a connection with Transformers. Okay. Like I grew up watching like whatever Transformers cartoon was out at the time. I would play with the toys. I still have a bunch of them like in the closet somewhere. And like I was so excited when they started making the movies. Like I loved the first one, and like I even liked the second and third one when I first saw them. And I realized how much of a fool I was. Like, I was kind of on the fence just because of, like, all the things that happened in them at the time. But I'm like, it's giant robots fighting each other, whatever.
I'll give you an entire episode to explain to me what part 3 is about.
You know what? I know Leonard Nimoy was Sentinel Prime, and that
is that the one that gets his fucking spine torn out?
I do not remember Leonard.
No, Leonard Nimoy was the big red one. that they revived that they found on the moon?
Is it Megatron that gets his spine ripped out in that movie?
No, 'cause
Someone in that movie gets their spine ripped out because I remember watching it and going, "Holy fuck, this is like."
in the third one.
Yeah, someone's spine gets like ripped out of their back and like fucking like blue fluid like starts shooting out everywhere. Like,
Well, what color would you
does
make
Sentinel Prime
spinal
get shot in the
fluid
face
of?
in that movie and die?
I think Optimus does shoot him in the face.
I remember I'm like, did goddamn Tarantino write this? Like,
No, Michael Bay. No, okay, so like the first one was good. I really liked the first one. Like it wasn't too over the top. There was like a handful of Transformers. You knew all their names. They fought each other. Like there was some good some Transformers on the Autobot side got killed, which was like pretty intense. Like I think Megatron ripped Jazz in half. I'm like, holy shit!
Right.
Like I was not expecting that. And then, that one ended. I'm like, this is cool. I can't wait for a sequel. And then
According to Bing and the Transformers wiki, Ravage dies when Bumblebee yanks his spine out.
That's in the second one. That's in the one in Egypt. Ravage was like that
I thought
little...
the third one was in Egypt.
No, the third one was in Chicago. That was the one with the guy from
I swear
Grey's
to God,
Anatomy.
there was a desert in the third one.
the second one is where is it Devastator is on top of the
with
pyramid?
the big wrecking balls.
And then John Turturro goes, "I'm under the enemy scrotum."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the pyramid.
Was that? Is that? It's just John Turturro that did that, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I think that's where his career died.
So he was in 1, 2, and 3.
Uh-huh.
He skipped 4, and then he came back for a minor role in 5.
Well, 4 was ridiculous.
So was 5. I cannot tell you a fucking thing that happened in 5, and I watched it recently. All I know was that Optimus Prime was bad, and then he was good again because Bumblebee spoke suddenly, which he's been doing since every movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the beginning of the movie, he speaks through his radio again, and then at the end of the movie, he magically talks on his own. And the whole time, they always say like, "Oh, we haven't been able to fix this voice box for the past 10 fucking years." Like,
Do you think he's just like doing it for attention at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
He like can absolutely talk normally, but he's just like, "Oh no, I have to play the radio because everyone thinks I'm wacky that way." And then when he like needs to get a point across, he's just like, "Oh, I can speak."
5 was also the one where they revealed that Bumblebee has been on Earth since like World War II.
Yeah.
When in the first one they fucking said that they sent.
Show him landing in the first one, or
They said in the first one that they sent him to Earth as a scout to protect Shia LaBeouf. Like, why the fuck would he be on Earth during World War II?
Shia
he went
LaBeouf's
through a
immortal.
wormhole.
Yeah. But like,
Do you remember a point where they had a Transformers writers' room and they had 14 movies lined up?
I think they still do.
No, they
I
canceled
mean,
all
they're
that
probably
shit.
gonna make.
They
Because
I
they
know
had
they're
the-
still planning on a Bumblebee
The
movie.
standalone Bumblebee movie.
And then the sequel to whatever.
But then there was a standalone Bumblebee movie, but then there was another R-rated Bumblebee movie they were working on.
I don't remember this.
Like,
R-rated or XXX rated? Bam, bam, bam.
Anyway.
Go ahead.
but I'm like, why? Why?
I don't know.
I don't know what we need to say with like really 5 Transformers movies.
3 was too many. 3 is when I stopped watching, and 3
I
was too
get
many.
that like a lot of the Marvel movies, and Marvel is coming out its 18th or 19th movie, but like
But those are all different.
those are all different. And I get people have the argument like, well, they just like fight the bad guy, has like rolled in plot, whatever. But the Transformers movies quite literally seem to have the same plot.
Yeah.
In every movie.
Yep. That's the problem. Like I was just about to say, like it seems that there's no consequences that carry over. You know the good guys are going to win, and then you know the next one, the humans are going to see the good guys as the bad guys. Like that was like the fucking thing that annoyed me the most. So like the first one, the Transformers, or at least the Autobots, were trying to stay as robots in disguise, hence the tagline. And then in the second one, the government had a special ops team that worked with the Autobots to hunt the Decepticons, and that was fine. And then in the third one, the Autobots were the bad guys to start because of the shit. No, wait.
Because
No,
they needed them to be bad
no.
guys.
In the
before,
third,
yeah.
okay, in the third one, they were still working with the Autobots, and that's when they went to the moon. But then all the crazy shit happened in Chicago, and half the city got blown up, whatever. And then the fourth one starts where the same special ops team that was working with the Autobots was now hunting the Autobots and fucking murdering them. Like Ratchet, who is like the Autobot medic who was in the first 3 movies as like a good guy and a pretty prominent character, gets murdered by the humans in the first 10 minutes of 4. And then so they're still the bad guys. And then 4 ends, and they're good guys again, and they're working with the humans. And then 5 starts, and the humans are hunting them again. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
I want you to know that from the moment you said robots in disguise, I stopped listening, and my brain was just playing the Transformers theme song, and that was more enjoyable than any of those movies.
Perfectly
you said
fine.
that, and I was like, more than meets the
There
eye.
reaches a point where you're just talking about Transformers, and I hear you,
But you also hear the theme song.
I'm here for you. But
This is toxic, and I need to separate myself from the situation.
my brain just like slowly started like wrinkling from the front to the back.
Okay,
It was like expelling information, but as a protection.
But,
it's like when a squid shoots ink as a method of protection, your brain is just like, purge everything. Hold on, pause, because I really want to mention this, but like cut this out of the podcast. I found that thing about the spine getting ripped out, and I clicked on the link, and it was the Transformers wiki page on death and Transformers, and it just has this list of all, like, organized by method of death. And it has like weapons fire, big explosions, disassembly, subsection of disassembly, bifurcation, melting, disintegration, consumption, decapitation, dismemberment, limbo, spark removal, suicide.
And you thought Ultimatum was bad.
Primus and Primus-related
That
powers.
was Beast Wars, the suicide. The fucking raptor guy.
Fleshling death,
Yeah.
animal
Watched that when I
death,
was
human
young.
death.
It's like
Characters
called,
who
like, Conan the
die a
Samurai or some
lot.
shit like that.
Hold on, let me click on suicide and
Don't
see.
cut this out, by the way. This is all gold. I love it.
Aging and disease are also in there. I really want to know what that is.
Which, who knew? Fucking robots.
Oh man, there's a
all-
quote under suicide.
Fucking Transformers, her AIDS.
Sometimes Transformer kills himself for some reason, or tries to. Marvel Comics, Dirge and Nightbeat, rather than be eaten by the swarm, self-destruct. Beast Wars, Transformers can deliberately override the static lock protocols, even if this will result in death. Code of Hero, it says.
Code of Hero, that's what it was.
In the final battle's depth charge allows himself to be blown up, killing Rampage. Rampage laughs maniacally as he detonates, suggesting that he was deliberately trying to die. That's dark. Dinobot 2 let himself go down with a nemesis.
Dinobot 2. It doesn't even have a name.
Yeah.
See how useful you are.
Galvatron, Starscream, and Mirage throw themselves into a sun and vaporize themselves. Oh my god. Snowcat and Demolisher may have also done this. May have!
I remembered the plot of the 4th movie.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Hold on, I'm not done reading about Transformer suicides. There's 2 more. Revenge of the Fallen, Jetfire rips out his entire spark housing for Optimus Prime to have enough power to kill the Fallen. And IDW continuity, Centurion alludes to a desire to find his old spaceship so that he can die there. How exactly he plans to do this is never expounded upon. Guys, Transformers is really dark.
It really is.
I never watched the cartoon as a kid.
The cartoons aren't. They're dark.
Starscream sits at the foot of his bed listening to a Smashing Pumpkins album at 4 a.m, and then shoots himself. Oh my god!
Yeah, they were pretty intense.
Yeah.
No, the plot of the 4th movie is
These
that
cartoons were fucking metal. Go on. Sorry.
Literally.
in the 4th movie, the humans use the remains of some of the Transformers that died in the 3rd movie to make the material that transforms. So they start making their own Transformers. That's Stanley Tucci. He runs this company. He's like,
Is he a Transformer?
he makes.
Stanley Tucci transforms into John Turturro.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that hot girl that was randomly a Transformer in the second one?
Oh my god, I do. That was stupid.
It was really dumb.
Oh
No, Stanley Tucci he runs the company that makes the material to allow things to transform. So he has this ball that's horribly CGI'd. He has this white ball, and he's like, "Oh, I could transform it into a gun, or I can transform it into a pair of Beats headphones."
I want the listeners to know that Kyle and I can see that Mike is holding out his hand as if he's holding a spherical object. But I hope that you all were just picturing this guy with a white ball that transforms into things.
But so they basically build their own Transformers, and they build a new body for Megatron, and he's now Galvatron, and
Sure.
But the whole
Galvatron is Megatron.
But yeah, so that's the
Megatron's
thing.
Galvatron.
They build him, and he comes back to life, and then Optimus Prime finds the Dinobots that have been in China for centuries, just kind of hiding in the mountains.
Kyle's losing the will to live again by hearing about about Transformers.
God's Transformers suicide subsection people listening to the fucking plot of Transformers.
I'll wrap it up.
I want you to know, like, I was actually, like, trying really hard to listen when you said, like, I remember the plot of the fourth one. I have already forgotten it. All I got out of it is transforming White Bull. I don't.
I'll wrap up. So, like, now my biggest problem with the movies is that every single movie has a different overpowered, like, MacGuffin. Like, the first one, it was the Allspark. I'm like, okay, cool, that's an actual thing from Transformers lore. Then there was the Matrix of Leadership in the second one, which is an actual thing that Optimus Prime should have had the whole time and not just fucking buried in some cave. And there was also that big fucking harvester buried under the pyramid. The third one was the pylons that brought Cybertron to Earth. And I don't remember what the fourth and the fifth ones are.
It's Mark Wahlberg.
It was
a Wahlberg franchise.
It was Mark Wahlberg and Bud Light. You remember? Did you remember that? You saw the first one where they're like driving down the street and the car gets like half torn off and they crash into a fucking Bud Light truck and he just like yelling at people in the street. He grabs a Bud Light, opens it, and drinks it. It's like, what the fuck?
I cannot stress enough, Vanessa, don't cut anything from this segment.
Like, that
it's
also
so
seems like Transformers movies should be so easy because, like, you don't, like, as dumb as those plots are, it's like you don't need a crazy plot or complicated plot for a Transformers movie, you know? You just have to be like, hey, there's a giant robot and he's evil, and here's the giant robots and they're good and they're going to fight him. Well, like, that's all we want to see.
The problem is they keep fucking killing the villain at the end of each movie. They killed Megatron at the end of the first one. They brought him back in the second one, and he stayed alive at the end of the second one, but he got his ass beat. And then they killed him at the end of the third one and brought him back at the end of the fourth one, or in the middle of the fourth one.
I take it back. Like that's one problem with the Transformers movies. The other is the transformations look awful. Like, it's just like noise on the screen. It's just visual noise, and you're like, what's happening? What am I?
Also, Michael Bay makes the robots horribly racist.
There is also that.
I mean, that, yeah.
Do you think that was like how he won over Mark Wahlberg?
Listen, he has a fucking, in the second one, the one with the wrecking ball testicles, he's got the twins that are with the gold teeth.
Yeah.
In the fourth and fifth one, he has got a triple changer, which is a robotic car, and a helicopter. That when he transforms into a robot, it looks like he's got samurai armor on, and he's like, they cast like an Asian actor that does like an over-the-top Asian accent. Like,
you'd think that like, if they aren't just going to outright stop giving movies to Michael Bay, like at least be like, okay, you can direct this movie, but like we're giving you like a cultural sensitivity advisor or something, or just like a bad idea advisor. Like everything has to go through this guy. He's just gonna like sit quietly, but every time you make a choice about something, he's just gonna be like, no, don't do that.
You point the camera. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't write, you don't produce, you don't talk to anybody. You just say action and cut. We'll do the rest.
Tell us where to explode things and
yeah.
In line with our Haters Volume 1, we are bringing back the much loved, according to Erin. Erin hates the 80s. Erin and Kyle are going to get in a fight. Spoilers.
And Mike's going to be here to watch and maybe kind of reel it in if it goes too crazy.
So, tonight on Erin Hates the 80s, comic books from the 80s, guys. I feel like this is going to be a hard one to explain. Kyle's already upset. It's not comics from the 80s. It's the style of art that was prevalent in mainstream comics in the 80s. And we like already started this argument earlier in the night. It's not everything, but I feel like it's the majority of like, you pull up Spider-Man, you pull up Booster Gold, you pull up any of the mainstream or Superman storylines, and they just have the same like printed on newsprint, like vector artwork. All of the like the design just like, it just bugs me, guys. It just bugs me. Okay. All the women look like men. All the men look incredibly jowly with like super prominent cheekbones. Like if they have no other detail on their face, it's just like a sharp line of a cheekbone. And, like, it just looks bad to me. And part of it is also, this was going to be my other topic, part of it was also that fashion was terrible in the 80s. So, like, I don't like the art style, but also what they're drawing is, like, super ugly clothing. I pulled some examples because I haven't read a lot of these, but, like, and I feel like it's hard to describe, like, an art style in just an audio podcast. But I think John Byrne was the one who did the Superman, the one that you were like, that's just the cover. What was that? I forget. Anyway, it was super ugly. Apparently there's someone named Paul Ryan who's a comic book writer. His more recent stuff looks okay, but he was the one who drew the issue where Spider-Man married Mary Jane. And I pulled up this panel earlier and sent it to Kyle because, like, Doc Ock is playing the organ. Dr. Doom is sitting on the bride's side and is just yelling out the word die. but apart from the ridiculousness, it's just like, also Spider-Man is in, like, full costume, like, getting married. It's like Mary Jane in a wedding dress and then like, not Peter Parker, just Spider-Man. So I want to know if he, like, signed the wedding certificate as Spider-Man.
Doesn't that defeat the purpose of his whole wanting to keep her safe?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And also, like, another good example of this art style, look it up. There's something called American Flag with 2 G's that ran from 83 to 89. I feel like that style, that's what I'm talking about.
What?
It's just like, it looks awful. I'll bing a picture of it for Mike real quick.
Marvel?
That's not Howard Chaykin, is it?
Is it Marvel?
I don't know. I'd never heard of it before, but I was just looking at comics that were published in the 80s, and that was one of them.
Writer Howard Chaykin. I was partially right. Colorist Lynn Varley. Lynn Varley is, isn't that Frank Miller's wife? I believe.
Know. Who knows?
He's married?
Yeah.
Guys, why am I single? If he can get married.
Writer-artist Howard Chaykin is Howard. Isn't it great when someone talks about shitty artwork? I could usually be like, "Oh, is it Howard Chaykin?" I don't. Howard Chaykin is like before I look up Howard Chaykin's
I think I've
recent
seen that
artwork.
before.
Okay, you're gonna have to spell that for me.
Howard, then Chaykin. Look that up while I talk about this. I will agree with Erin on some points.
Okay.
At first, when she was looking at this, she goes, all 80s comic art was garbage.
Except for that one Batman one, which then I found out was by Frank Miller.
And I actually don't care about that.
What
story?
Yeah. But, and Paul Ryan, I'll give you two. I just looked it up, and it looks like he might have created the Sue Storm outfit that has the...
Oh, the 4 that's a boob cut out?
The 4 that's the boob window. I think my problem with... I'll say that most mainstream comic artwork, besides like a few like very famous artists that are kind of like signed exclusive, aren't good. I think a lot of see, that's terrible. Howard Chaykin just loves like these giant fucking chins. Yeah. Like, and his coloring is super ugly too.
Looks a lot like Amanda Conner style art.
It's like if a bad artist was like trying to draw like Amanda Conner. I like Amanda Conner. She has like cartoony style. I like it.
Super nice. I met her several times.
Yeah. With a lot of the 80s artwork, I feel like a lot of the mainstream comics, and it's like now, it's like the cover art sometimes is really, really good and that's what draws you in. Mm-hmm. But they just hire these like whatever artists that will just go work anywhere for anything and have no desire to like create or own content.
Well,
that'll just go and I talked about it when I talked about Thunderbolts a while back in another episode. The cover artwork, I think, was by either Phil Noto or Kevin Wada, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. But then the interiors were some of the ugliest shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's the Marvel gimmick. They do that with Spider-Man and all their big event books. They have like Alex Ross do the covers, and they're fucking amazing. Yeah. And then you open it up, and the first page just looks like garbage.
There's like stick figures.
What the fuck? Yeah. Why did I buy this? So I hate when they do that. I think
there's definitely like a form style for that era that was just like, okay, like this is the like copy paste, this is what our characters look like kind of thing.
Definitely think the 80s, I mean the 90s too, I think it carried the 90s. I think that's partially what the comics like collapse too.
Oh yeah, that
was this just like
overprinting
just style that was everywhere in the main two, and everyone just kind of drew that way, and it was very flat.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too is like
it's very flat. There's like I was talking about like when it's colored, there's like no shading. It's everything is just like a solid color. And then like in black and white when they're shading, it's just all hatching. Like
But I mean, for the 80s, to like as a counterpoint, I think for every like crappy mainstream artist you have like a lot of the Vertigo stuff that was going on. Like I know you're saying like Watchmen, like I like Dave Gibbons.
I think so.
I forgot his fucking name. It's late. I like his style. I think it's that kind of mix of like a classic comic book style and then some of the like, you know, he has a realistic approach. He has that 9-panel like grid that goes on that I really enjoy.
That is, and that was like, I do like Watchmen. I almost think of it as like even stylistically, like a parody of the comics of the time, which might just be like me excusing something that I like, but like,
and that's just a style.
And like, like it was, but even some of that is like kind of hard to look at. There's some like front on shots of like Dr. Manhattan's face where you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, his face.
There's nothing wrong with the way his tiny balls are drawn.
But like, you know, like just artists like Dave McKeon, with like people doing Sandman stuff, like the Hellblazer stuff, a lot of the Vertigo stuff. I don't know. I think there's so many.
V for Vendetta, that was 80s? 90s?
That was 80s.
That was 80s, I think.
I've never really read the whole thing.
It was
really super dense.
Yeah, it's a great comic. Love the Alan Moore stuff.
Yeah.
Alan Moore is generally like put together with someone that was like very good.
Yeah.
But I know there is like really good artists working on indie stuff.
Now, you mean, or
then and now I think there's a higher caliber now. And I mean,
absolutely.
There's definitely like I'm forgetting everyone's name because it's so late. My brain's just going to mush. But like Gary Frank with the DC, Kevin Wada, God, who's Scott Snyder with all the time?
Greg
Capullo is so good.
Fucking amazing.
His stuff's amazing.
Jason
he came out of
Fabok
Image. Yeah,
does a lot of stuff with Jeff Johns. Always that's good.
So I think there is always going to be that thing. Like Marvel, DC, unless it's a big event, and then sometimes a big event they can finish. We'll find that's where they'll put all their best art, and a lot of other comics suffer because of that.
Yeah.
But
that's not with Marvel, because Marvel does so many different events that even on the big event books, the art kind of sucks sometimes.
So. I think it's like, for me, like, obviously this is just my opinion, man, but it's not even like, oh, this is objectively bad art. Like, they have a bad grasp on anatomy, or like, you know, like they have giant chins or whatever it is. It's just like technically passable, aesthetically hideous to me. In the same way that fashion is like, there's technically nothing wrong with putting shoulder pads in every single shirt or jacket that you give to a woman, but God, it's ugly. Like,
yeah.
There's technically nothing wrong with a perm, but
yes, there is.
I think the 80s is where a lot of artists I like peaked too in terms of like their best style, and it just like fucking went to hell later on. Like Frank Miller, John Romita Jr. Like those guys, like where their art was so good for a moment in time. And then
flash in the pan.
And now like it's just the worst goddamn art ever. Especially Frank Miller's so fucking ugly. And like John Romita Jr.
reflects life.
Kind of. I still like his artwork. I kind of do.
I don't.
But I don't know.
Yeah, it's too weird for me. So.
Very blocky.
So this has been Erin Hates the 80s.
Yay.
All right, guys.
All right, we're gonna wrap up because it's fucking 6:32 in the morning. So peace.
Good night.
Ghost Train! God damn it.
Leave that in.
Hey everyone, if you enjoy listening to the Sleepy Nerds podcast and want to hear more from us, you can follow us on Facebook at Sleepy Nerds Podcast, Instagram and Twitter at Sleepy Nerds Pod, and you can also subscribe to us on YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes.